नमस्कार, सुस्वागतम, केम छो, आदाबाज, ए वेरी गुड आफ्टरनून। आप सभी का पीआरएल के अमृत व्याख्यान में स्वागत है, अभिनंदन है। ए वेरी वार्म वेलकम फ्रॉम मी अनिल भारद्वाज फॉर द पीआरएल का अमृत व्याख्यान। टुडे इज द 70th episode of the series of Vyakhyans of 75, which is being organized as a part of PRL's 75 years of legacy and history in fundamental physics and space sciences. Established in the year 1947 by the father of Indian space program, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, the PRL's Platinum Jubilee coincides with India's 75 years of independence. Hence, it's a joint celebration of the development of science and technology in India by PRL under the banner of PRL Ka Amrit Vyakhyaan. Today, we have yet another very distinguished Vyakhyaan Karta with us, Dr. Harsh Gupta, who is currently Nasi Platinum Jubilee Fellow, President of Geological Society of India, member of Atomic Energy Regulatory Board of India, and is currently at National Geophysical Research Institute of Hyderabad. And he is going to talk to us on building Dakshin Gangotri at Antarctica, a miracle. We greatly thank and appreciate Dr. Gupta for agreeing and accepting our invitation and to be with us today for today's Vyakhyaan of PRL, which is a part of Platinum Jubilee celebration of PRL as well as Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. I now request my colleague, Professor Deshpande, to kindly introduce today's Vyakhyaan Karta, Dr. Harsh Gupta, to the panel at WebEx, as well as those who have joined us live at PRL's YouTube channel. Over to you, Professor Deshpande.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bhardwaj, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to introduce today's speaker, Professor Harsh Gupta, a world-renowned expert in seismology and a doyen of earth sciences. Professor Gupta is such a towering and well-known personality that he doesn't need any introduction, but introducing him itself is an honor for us. Although it is impossible to briefly introduce him, I'll try to very briefly narrate his personality. Professor Harsh Gupta is presently the Nasi Platinum Jubilee Fellow. He is the President of Geological Society of India and a member of the Atomic Energy Regulatory Board of India. Dr. Gupta is globally recognized for developing criteria to discriminate artificial water reservoir triggered earthquakes from normal earthquakes, which are globally applied for finding safe sites for the construction of reservoirs. His technique was applied for making a medium-term forecast of an M8 earthquake in the Northeast India region in 1986, which came true in 88. He also pioneered the gas hydrate program and carried out detailed studies of the genesis of triggered earthquakes in the Koyna region to make successful short-term earthquake forecasts. Dr. Gupta obtained his BSc and MSc from the Indian School of Mines, Dhanbad, and PhD from the University of Roorkee. He then moved on to Japan for pursuing his postdoctoral research at International Institute of Seismology as a UNESCO Fellow, and then on to University of Texas at Dallas. Later on, he also became adjunct professor at the University of Texas at Dallas. Professor Gupta has held many important positions at national level, and he has led many organizations with his depth of knowledge, sharp observations, and strong leadership. In fact, it is really difficult to list all those, but for the sake of completeness, I would read out. He was the director of Center of Earth Science Studies, Trivandrum. He was the vice chancellor of Cochin University of Science and Technology. He was the advisor to Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. He was the director of NGRI. He was secretary to the Government of India, Department of Ocean Development. He was the member of the National Disaster Management Authority of India. And he was the chairman of the steering committee of the Global Seismic Hazard Assessment Program, GSHA, from 1992 to 1999, which produced the Global Seismic Hazard Map. And there's a long list which I don't want to read. Dr. Gupta has published over 200 scientific papers in internationally reputed journals. He has authored 5 books by Elsevier and Springer and edited 21 volumes. His first book, Dams and Earthquakes, which was published in 1976, was translated into Russian and Chinese languages. Dr. Gupta compiled and edited the Encyclopedia of Solid Earth Geophysics, and the second edition of which, amounting to 2050 pages in 2 volumes, was also published by Springer recently in 2021. Dr. Gupta has received several awards and honors. To name a few once again, includes the S.S. Bhatnagar Prize in 83, USSR Academy of Sciences 100 Years of International Geophysics Memorial Medal, the National Mineral Award, the Indian Geophysical Union Millennium Award, Indian Society of Applied Geochemists Millennium Award, Jawaharlal Nehru Birth Centenary Visiting Fellowship Award, Professor K. Naha Memorial Award, so on and so forth. He was awarded Padma Shri by Government of India in 2006, and so on and so forth. Today he is going to speak about the Gangotri, the third Indian science expedition to Antarctica led by him, established the first winter station, Dakshin Gangotri, and he is going to share the excitements about that event. With this introduction, I invite Professor Gupta on behalf of all of us to please make this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deshpande ji, Dr. Anil Bhardwaj, Nandita ji, all wonderful people at PRL and globally. First of all, let me compliment you for doing such a wonderful service to the nation, and my congratulations on completing 70 years. And I compliment you for organizing these talks, which are very useful. I'm going to share an instance before I go to Antarctic talk. You see, in 1967, I'm talking of October of 1967, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai was visiting Hyderabad. And there are 3 or 4 laboratories, 3 CSI laboratories and the laboratories, and everyone wanted Vikram Sarabhai to visit them. At that time, Dr. Harinayan was the director of the National Geophysical Research Institute. And Dr. Vikram Sarabhai agreed to spend 30 minutes at National Geophysical Research Institute. I don't know how many of you have been to NGRI, but at that time, NGRI was not in the campus where it is sitting now. We were located in the quarters, residential quarters of, at that time, Regional Research Laboratory. And we had just got 180 acres of land, which Dr. Narayan was trying to develop. So at that time, on that land, there was only one magnetic observatory, and I was setting up the seismological observatory. So Dr. Narayan had 30 minutes with him. He spent 10 minutes with him, and of course, he wanted to show him what all is happening. So he brought him to the site. He spent 4 or 5 minutes at the magnetic observatory, and then he brought him to the seismological observatory. Now, I must tell you that globally, there was no uniform instrumentation. Everywhere, different kind of seismometers were being used. And that's why calibration, et cetera, was a very big problem. So in 1963, the US Geological Survey came up with a program of setting up 120 worldwide standard seismograph networks all over the world. And India got 4 stations in Shillong, and in Kolkata, and in Pune, and in Colaba. Now, it so happened that when Shillong station was being set up, I was there. I had joined that place just after my master's. And I worked with the US geological people for almost 1 month in setting it up. In the process, learned all the tricks about it. And then later, when Dr. Narayan wanted to set up a similar laboratory, he approached US Geological Survey. So US Geological Survey said that we have already committed, we can't give any additional station. But Harinayan was a very determined person. He said, no matter what happens, I'm going to set it up. So he started looking for people who could help me. And I was just 22 years of age. He picked me up as a senior scientific officer. That time, we didn't call scientists, we called senior scientific officers. So I joined NGRI and started working on it, placed order for all the necessary equipment. There's a lot of story about it also. Anyway, by 1967, October, November, everything was ready. And there's another thing that at that time, the idea was that the USGS people will come and set it up. I had made the observatory and all the equipment was ready. But then the Pakistan was there. So $20,000, which was required by that USGS team to come and set it up, that disappeared. So I asked Harinan that, can I set it up? He said, why didn't you ask me earlier? So I started working on it, and it was almost ready to be set up. And then that was the time that Dr. Vikram Sarabhai was visiting. And he came down, and it was in the basement. He looked around, asked some questions, and spent maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and he left. On 10th of December 1967, we had the Koina earthquake, which was devastating, and it created a lot of problem. And somewhere in January, there was a meeting in Bhava Atomic Research Center, which was chaired by Vikram Sarabhai. And all the top people were sitting in the front. Harinan was kind enough to take me to that meeting. And I was sitting the 7th or 8th row. In the front, we had A.N. Tandon, H.M. Chaudhary, S. Balakrishna, all senior people. And they kept on discussing that what happened during the Koina earthquake, triggered, non-triggered, etc. All this was going on. Suddenly, Vikram Sarabhai points a finger to me and asks me, Harsh, do you have opinion? I was amazed that he could spot me, he could remember my name, he could remember my face, and could remember that I have something to do with seismology. Of course, I didn't have an answer to that at that day, but that is another story, that how we have worked and made it possible to recognize why these earthquakes occur, how they occur. And right now we are in the process of looking at these earthquakes from very near vicinity, from a distance of 50, 60 meters, very small earthquakes, something which has not happened globally. But let me leave that behind and come back to the topic of today, and that is building of Dakshin Gangotri in Antarctica. So needless to say that Antarctica is the fifth largest continent, an area of 14 million square kilometer. And this is covered with a massive ice sheet, almost 1,800 meters thick. Maximum, if you want, maximum estimated thickness is 4780 meters, almost 5 kilometers. And this huge mass has depressed the continent by about 600 meters. This is also the highest continent with average elevation being 2.5 kilometers. And it is paradoxical that it is the driest continent. Only about 10 centimeters per year of the rain. And there are places in Antarctica and the interior where it has not rained for thousands of years. Now, Antarctica also stores almost 80% of fresh water of the world. And in case all the ice of Antarctica melts, the sea level will go up by 60 meters. Interestingly, only 2% of Antarctica has exposed rocks. The rest are all covered by this thick ice sheet. And world's lowest temperature of minus 88 degrees Celsius was recorded at Vostok, one of the Soviet stations in 1960. And as we all know, that it has the South Pole, magnetic as well as geographical. And you have 24 hours light in summers and 24 hours night time in the winters. Now, the coinage of Antarctica belongs to the fact that it's just opposite of Arctic. Arctic is a continent. Arctic is an ocean surrounded by continents. Antarctica is a continent surrounded by Arctic. There are polar bears in Arctic, and Antarctica has penguins. And actually, the word Antarctica is quite ancient. It was hypothesized in the 2nd century that there should be a landmass just opposite to Arctic, and instead of being ocean, it should be a landmass. The first visits to these regions were during the later part of the 18th century, and James Cook went around it. Then James Weddell discovered Antarctic Peninsula, etc., etc. But in the earlier life, all the expeditions were for sealing and whaling. That was the main purpose. Things changed after the International Geophysical Year, which took place in 1957-58.
So, Gupta, are you sharing the screen?
Yes,
I can't
I
see
am.
this.
The
I
screen
can't
is-
see the screen. No.
You can't see the screen?
No.
No, we are not able to see the
See those
slides.
slides.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know what happened then.
So it was not shared, sir.
It was not shared, sir, then.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because we get a message when you share, when you start to share.
We can do it from here.
Would you like to share from our end? Can we share?
Just one
Gupta?
minute. You see, I changed the laptop. I usually use a it's a please come. Oh, sharing or a screen. This is not being shared.
Yeah, it's coming up now.
Okay. Should I start from the beginning? I think I can, the Vikram Sarabhai episode everyone heard. So I think I need not get into that.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, we can
Yes.
hear you, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So I think I already talked about Antarctica, some statistics about it. So let me not repeat it. These are all written here. And let me get to where we stopped. That in International Geophysical Year, 1957-58, there was a worldwide attention drawn to Antarctica. And people realized that this is a place where we should not be fighting for territorial claims and things like that. This is a place for peaceful scientific collaboration. And fortunately, all the countries who had claimed certain parts of Antarctica agreed to this session, and the Antarctica Treaty was signed on 1st of December 1959 by 12 nations. And it was agreed that Antarctica is meant only for scientific work, no exploitation, nothing of that kind. Although it possesses really large amount of resources, the largest coal deposit in the world is in the Transantarctic mountain ranges, which runs almost 2,500 kilometers in the length. Then it is estimated that it's 45 million barrels of oil, 120 trillion cubic of gas, etc., etc. In Antarctica now, the summer population is around 6,000. These are the people who are manning 60 odd stations, winter stations, plus a lot of people go during summertime. And in winters, it drops to about 4,000 to 4,500 people. Basically, the smallest stations would have about 8 to 10 people, and the largest station, like the McMurdo Sound, has about 200 people who man it. India got interested in Antarctica for several reasons. First of all, as you all know, that we had a super huge continent, Gondwana land, which broke up some 200 million years ago. And it was constituted by Antarctica, India, Africa, Australia, Madagascar, etc., etc. So all these continents moved in different directions at different speeds. And India moved almost the fastest, almost 10 centimeter a year, and then collided with Eurasia, giving rise to the mighty Himalaya. This happened about 40 to 50 million years ago. Also, the east part of India, the Tamil Nadu area, was juxtaposed with Antarctica. So it is very important to have a comparative study. Also for India, it is very important to have idea about long-range weather forecasting. And as I said before, that Antarctica controls the Indian Ocean weather and Indian Ocean weather controls the Indian subcontinent weather. So the understanding is this, that whatever data you provide in the international hub, you get the same, you can share the same data. So it was important that India set up a permanent base and become a part of Antarctic Treaty. And at that time in 1980s, 70s, it was very important. It felt important, rightly so, that India should be a part of all such global endeavors. So with that in mind, the first expedition was left by Dr. Zuhur S. Qasim in 1981. And the second expedition went by in 1982, and Dr. Rana was in charge of that expedition. This is just a map showing the Gondwana land and how it broke and things moved. And here are our beautiful penguins. Now I take you back to 1983 when I had moved from Hyderabad to Trivandrum, and the Department of Ocean Development had called for proposals for work to be done in Antarctica. At that time in 1983, there were not many seismic stations in Antarctica. And those days we did not have digital recording, etc., etc. Everything was analog. So I made a proposal to DOD to set up 6 stations in Antarctica. And as was expected, I was called for a discussion. This happened somewhere in the month of March. So I went, and when I went to Department of Ocean Development, that time the department was located in South Block, and Dr. Qasim was the secretary. So there were 7 other scientists like me who had come to make their presentations. So my turn came, I made the presentation, and they listened to me very carefully. They talked among themselves and then said that please wait till all the presentations are over. I came back and I thought that maybe they are going to permit me to do what I had suggested. When I went back to them, they said, Harsh, your proposal is extremely good, but we cannot afford to provide you the manpower that you require. Because to man those 6 stations, you need 6 people. In those days, as I was studying, you have to physically load the records and things like that. And this year, we are trying to set up our permanent base. So we don't think that we can approve of your proposal. But would you like to be the leader of this expedition? I'm saying, we offer you to be the leader of this expedition. That came as a total surprise to me. And I got, it was exciting because I was just 40 years of age at the time. Had been working in Himalaya and other places. So I just said, why me? Why did you think that I should be suitable for it? So Dr. Qasim said that you are just 40 and you are director of Center for Science Studies, that too in a state, Kerala. You don't know any Malayalam. And it's a full-fledged laboratory, and I believe we are doing quite well. We are also aware that you work in Himalaya quite a bit, and you look in good physical shape. We are also aware that you have played badminton at national level. So I said that, thank you very much, sir, but I need to consult, because at that time, Center for Earth Science Studies was under the state government of Kerala. They had developed 5 or 6 institutions like CES, and they had taken the CSR design. So everything was like a CSR laboratory. So I called Mr. V. Ramchandran, who was the secretary. Mr. Ramchandran himself was a geologist, and he had taught from Madras University, and he had joined Bhabha Atomic Research Center. But somehow he had a difference of opinion with some people And he told me that, Harsh, I did the mistake of writing IAS examination. And once I got selected, I had no choice but to join. So he was very happy. He said, it is a wonderful opportunity. It will bring a lot of fame and name to your laboratory, to Kerala and to India. And but I'll get the permission from the chief minister, no problem. But you should ask your family. So I called my wife Manju, and we had two daughters, aged 8 and 11 at that time. And they did not know much about Antarctica. But after talking of something, they said that whatever you do is good, and they were very happy about it. So I communicated my concurrence to Dr. Zahur Qasim the same evening. And he said, next day morning, you please come to my office. So next day when I went to the office, DOD just had 5-6 rooms. So everyone stood up, because that time being a leader of the Antarctic expedition was a very major thing. And I sat with Dr. Qasim, and the first requirement was to meet the Prime Minister, because the Prime Minister was very keen in Antarctic program, and Dr. Qasim wanted to introduce me to the Prime Minister and discuss everything. Well, we got an appointment for about 5 o'clock that evening. So both of us went there, and the Prime Minister was very happy to see a 40-year-old man selected to be the leader. We sat down, and questions started here, there, and everywhere. And somewhere Dr. Qasim again said that, ma'am, it is very difficult to set up a permanent base in the third year of our expedition. We have not enough experience. She said, I'm not asking you, I'm asking this young man. Can't we do it? Also, I was in a very difficult situation. I said, ma'am, let me look into it. So I came back and worked, and the Department of Ocean Development had prepared a very good plan. Only they were hesitant whether they should try it or not. So a week later, I again met her, and she kept on asking me questions for almost an hour. I could not answer one half of those questions. But that also showed me that how much deep she had gone herself into learning about Antarctica or studying about Antarctica. After the end of that meeting, go ahead and do it. Done. So I came back, told everything to Dr. Qasim, and he was more or less very happy. And then the preparations started. A wonderful team of 81 people was selected. There were 16 scientists. There were 32 people from Army who would have responsibility of the construction. And there were 11 from the Air Force and 11 from Navy, with 2 helicopters each to provide the support, logistic support. And the ship Finn Polaris was selected, which was picking up all the material ordered for this prefab construction. In the meantime, we were sent to the Machoi Glacier. Machoi Glacier is a place at a height of about 18,000 feet in Kashmir, Himalaya. And the idea was that many of us had never seen snow. They had not worked in snow. And Machoi Glacier facility did not have adequate space to accommodate all 81 of us. So we were broken up into 3 batches, 27, 27, 27. I was kept in the center batch, and I was asked to come 2 days before and leave 2 days later so that I could interact with the entire team. But that training was extremely useful because this told us how to walk on ice, how to pitch a tent, what to do, what not to do, etc., etc. Finally, the Finn Polaris ship was to arrive in Goa, and we started from Trivandrum. In the old days, we had those beautiful ambassadors which could carry any amount of stuff. So we reached Goa, and I was put in Hotel Manvi. And that was a beautiful hotel where we used to stay quite often for various meetings. And all the 81 members had arrived, and many of them were in Mandovi and other places. So we went for the inspection of the ship, and Dr. Qasim introduced me to the captain of the ship, Kuljo. It was a Finn ship from Finland, Finn Polaris. Kuljo was a very young, I would say not very young, but quite young officer, very nice person. And Dr. Qasim said that from now onwards, whatever Harsh says is the last word. Now, while talking to Soviet and British people, I had learned 2 things. One very important thing was that in Antarctica, when you reach there, the fast ice is still there. Fast ice is a layer of almost 1 to 1.5 meter thick ice, which surrounds Antarctica during the entire year. It breaks up during the summertime and then starts forming again by March. So you have to unload the ship on the fast ice because you can't reach the shelf ice and take it from there. So whatever you need first should be loaded hold of the ship. So I asked Major Nair, who was in charge of the construction, that do you know the order of loading of the ship? He had more or less idea, but not the exact idea. So I discussed. Soviet people had also told me that once a whole expedition was written off, because the ship reached the shelf, reached the Antarctica, and the things they needed first were in the bottom, and they could not afford to unload the entire cargo on fast ice because fast ice could break anytime. So Pavan did not know exactly, and he agreed that it's very important to unload the whole ship and load it again. So that was decided. So next day, we went early in the morning by about 8 o'clock to the ship, and I asked Captain Kullo to get the whole hold unloaded. This ship, Finn Polaris, had a 80 feet deep hold. And imagine what would have happened when Dr. Qasim came around 11 o'clock and he found the entire stuff flying out. He said, "What has happened?" And the captain said, "Sir, you had said that whatever Harsh says is the last word." He asked us to unload, so we're unloading the whole thing. So I took Dr. Qasim to his side and explained the whole thing to him, and he realized that it is very important. So the whole ship was unloaded, loaded again. In the process, we were supposed to leave on 1st of December, 1983. The departure was delayed by 2 days. We left on 3rd of December, and it was a grand send-off. And if you look at the ship, you see the kind of loading we had. These are all the barrels. We were carrying 800 barrels of oil. These barrels of oil were for the generators to run the station in the winters in case we succeed in setting up that station. And it was lovely because 81 families were there. For the first time, 2 lady scientists were going to Antarctica. One was Sudipta Singh Gupta, who was a geologist from Jadavpur University, and Aditi Pant, a scientist from National Institute of Oceanography. And they were selected not because they were excellent scientists. So it was a wonderful group. So a very warm send-off was given to us. The Navy bands playing the tune of all kind of encouraging tunes, and we left in Finn Polaris. We kept on, waving to our families for a long time. And finally, we went back, settled. I was given a beautiful cabin, which had a toilet and everything. And at 8 o'clock, we had decided to have dinner. All of us couldn't sit at the same time, so we broke up into two groups, and things started moving. While we were moving, we realized that there are certain things which are very important. We had just 60 days time at our disposal. Out of this 60 days also, several days are lost in whiteouts and blizzards. What are whiteouts? Whenever there's a breeze or wind in Antarctica, the small little ice particles get airborne. And then there's a multiple reflection of sun on those ice particles, and it becomes so dazzling that you can't open your eyes. So that takes up many days. And then, of course, there are blizzards, the speed reaching 80 or 100 nautical miles, and you can't even stand erect. So we got all the background information, and in the part of Antarctica where we were planning to build our station, it came to our knowledge that up to 30 days could be lost in the month of January and February in Antarctica due to blizzards and due to whiteouts. So the whole idea was to cut down our construction activity to 30 working days. And we kept on working on that. In the meantime, the doctors, I had 3 wonderful doctors. one from Army, one from Navy, one from Air Force. They said, sir, there are not adequate facilities, medical facilities on the ship. And if you permit us, there are 2 rooms available, which captain had said, because you can do whatever you wish to do in these 2 rooms. If you give us those 2 rooms, we'll put all those things in there, because we are carrying the entire medical requirements to be set up in the venturing station. At the same time, scientists wanted those 2 rooms for some experiments. And I decided to give those 2 rooms to the doctors. And all the scientists were so angry with me, saying that you are yourself a scientist and you're not favoring us. I said, it's not a question of favoring you or favoring anyone else, but it's a question of the requirement of the expedition. So in our plan, there was a week's time given for surveying to decide where the station would be built. And that was too long. So we had all the aerial photographs. We kept on looking at those photographs and zeroed in onto a very small area on the basis of those photographs. Also, another story was told to me, again by Russians, that we use piston bullies to move around in Antarctica. A piston bully is a tracked vehicle, like a tank. And it has got a very big base, so it moves very well on ice and all those things. And they showed me a small movie where a piston bully was kept on the fast ice and it just sank. So this was also in the back of mind. So we were carrying a very long rope to be tied with the crane of the ship when we load the piston bully. So we reached Mauritius in about a week's time. We had a short stay in Mauritius, and that was very important because several things in the ship which were not functioning properly were fixed, and there were some supplies. And we met Dr. Prem Kumar, who was our High Commissioner in Mauritius, a very friendly person, a very good person. So we finally said bye-bye to Mauritius, and we located the first iceberg. It's called a table iceberg. Why table iceberg? Because the top is just flat. And this iceberg is about 10 meters above the sea level. So you can imagine there's another 90 meters below it. Another thing I must tell you, that there is a ceremony called entering the equator. When you cross 0 degrees north or south, there is a मैं बाद में बात सब ठीक हो गया? Okay, all the best. So you have to be accepted by King Neptune, and all kind of pranks are done. So just to make everything very happy. Then there was a question of 40 degrees south, which is called the roaring south. Roaring south was a place where the ships, sways very much. The sea state can be 6 or 7. And almost everyone was seasick. There's something wrong with me. I don't get seasick. I've been in high seas, in Japan Sea, in almost all over the world. And sometimes I feel that I've missed something in my life because I don't know what is it to be a seasick person. Anyway, so we spotted this and we were all very happy. And then we reached around 60 degrees south latitude. And here you can see this is all fast ice. Whatever you're seeing, this is all fast ice. You can see broken fast ice and all that. And we have brought out our Amrut, that smaller helicopter, and the people, this is on the deck of the ship. And finally, this is a place where we anchored the ship, and this is all fast ice here. So we took a helicopter flight, and we went to the place where we had decided to build our station, and we found it to be quite good. It was free of crevasses, and the best part was that we could see the Walthort Mountains in the background. I must tell you one thing. I had read a lot about Antarctica before leaving, but the expanse of Antarctica, once you reach there, is mind-boggling. It's unimaginable what you see. You don't see horizon because the ice sheet and the sky, they just merge. You can't see horizon. There are no trees, nothing. So there's no idea of distances. It is very difficult to have any visual assessment of the height of a place. You know, helicopters have very difficult time in landing and taking off is all right, but landing, because pilots also see down. After they are seeing on their meter how high they are, but nothing of that. Another thing that was done before going to Antarctica, I used to be quite active, but before 2 months before that, I was running almost 10 kilometers every day morning, just to build up my physical strength and be one of the Jawans who were going there, because you don't want to be showing that you lack anything. Now, penguins are such beautiful animals. I must say, it's, the way they come, and they're not afraid because they're not used to human beings. So they come and they are very friendly. They chase you wherever you go. And if you feed them something, they are so happy. Now, these are the tents. This is called the British Antarctic tents, which we have set up at the place where we were supposed to set our station. Mind you, we had reached Antarctica on 26th of December, and this station, the camp was set up on 27th itself, and the operations were all. And in the background, you can see the piston bully. These are the piston bully which move, and all the cargo. And we erected a big tent to accommodate everyone. But in these 2-man tents, it's very interesting. Only 2 people sleep in this. And you see what happens when you go out, not just now, but whenever there's a blizzard, you tie yourself up with a rope and then go out, because you would not be able to come back on your own. So with that rope, you keep on holding and coming back. Another thing that you do, that there's a rule that in Antarctica, never all the people sleep, because if anything untoward happens on the shelf, so literally people took time, chance to be awake. One person would be awake the whole night, others will sleep, and they will keep on changing. You see, when you sleep in these tents, sometimes when the temperature is 7-8 degrees below zero, in the morning, you need somebody to unzip you, because you are frozen stiff from outside. So those are very interesting. I was to sleep in Antarctica in the Antarctic tent is one of the most precious experience of my life. Now, what we were doing, we were carrying our luggage. These are the huge boxes which were carrying the Mi-8 helicopter. So it will come and it will hover on the deck of the ship. It will come down and then we'll hook this under some rope. It will rise and take it away. So this was the modus operandi. It was quite difficult because imagine such a low temperature and then the downwash of the rotor blades. So we used to put on very heavy headgears and all that. And also what happened that when you have got this helicopter moving, and this is the underslung load. If the helicopter does not accelerate properly, there could be an oscillation generated in this load, which is hazardous for aviation. So the fuselage of helicopter was cut open, the plexiglass window was fixed into it, so that the flight engineer can peep down and keep on talking to the pilot whether the helicopter is moving properly or not. So this operation is going on. What happens on 29th of December? We have a helicopter crash. The helicopter came, it hovered over the ship of over the deck of the ship. I was myself there. I underslung the load, but it did not gain adequate height. It started moving. The underslung load got stuck with the railing of the ship, and it pulled the helicopter. When it pulled the helicopter, the rotor blades of the helicopter hit the tail of the ship. The helicopter crashed. Fortunately, it did not crash on the ship, because had it crashed on the ship, all the aviation, all the fuel was there. It did not crash on the ice. If it had crashed on the ice, none would have survived. There were 5 people inside it, and it turned turtle. So that plexiglass window, which was made for the for the flight engineer fee was broken open by these 5 people, and they came up. I launched the Chetak helicopter to pick them up, and at the same time, I also launched a safety boat to bring them back. I said both of them should go. And you imagine the scene on the helicopter, on the deck of the ship. So this is the scene. The Amrut has gone there and is loading the pickup ladder. One person catches hold of it. When it's gone up, the second person catches hold of his legs, and both of them started moving towards the ship. In the meantime, this sinking helicopter had moved almost 200-300 meters away from the ship. Halfway through coming to the ship, the person down below fell down, and then the second person also fell down in water. Again, fortunately, they did not fall on the ship. So I abandoned the rescue by the helicopter and the boat, the safe boat that we had launched. So by the time it reached and picked them, I don't have a photograph of that. All these people, 5 people, were in water for quite some time. So these people were brought, and we had alerted to the doctors. And imagine if that hospital room was not ready, these people could not have been taken care of. So they were taken care of there. I went to the bridge of the ship because all the communications were from the bridge of the ship. And I told Dr. Qasim what has happened. Dr. Qasim was very upset, like any one of us. And he said that you have to inform the Prime Minister. Well, I didn't have to inform the Prime Minister. The call came from Prime Minister's office within 10 minutes' time. So I answered, and she said, Harsh, is everyone safe? First question. I said, ma'am, they are exposed to water for quite some time. Hypothermia maybe have set in, but we are very hopeful of saving them. There was a pause. Second question, can you still do it? This was a very loaded question. I was not ready for it. But my instant response was, because I have taken challenges all my life, that if I don't do it, I don't come back. She said, go ahead and do it. And the phone was off. Everyone on the bridge listened to me. And I could see a shine of courage on their faces, the people. The captain of the ship called me to his cabin, said that, one helicopter is gone, 5 people are sick. Do you really think you can do it? I said, you heard me what I told the Prime Minister. If I don't answer, if we are going to stay here, we don't complete it. So I saw there was a pride on his face. And he said, this Finn man will stand behind you. It was very important to share this information with the construction party. And also to take the fear out of the people, I took the second Mi-8 helicopter, went to the camp. We collected all the people in a small tent where we used to have lunch, and I narrated the whole story to them. And there was a loud shout, we shall do it, a war cry. And that made me so enthusiastic about the whole thing. And then the work started at such a rate that you can't believe it. I had to switch off the generators at the construction site at 10 p.m. because I don't switch them off. People will not stop work because there was light all the time. Then there was a question of injuries, cold injuries. What happens when you dress up yourself well for the cold weather and you work hard? Then some of us sweat. And suppose you sit on your toes and then you sit down to take rest. Then all that sweat gets converted into ice. And then that ice can give rise to the cold injuries. So 2 or 3 people reported cold injuries. Whoever reported for cold injury, I'll send him back to the ship and get a replacement. After some time, there were no cold injuries reported. Now this, Anil, you must appreciate we are building 620 square meter of a building. And this is a raft foundation being laid for that. So you have to dig 1.5 meters below the ice and put this raft foundation. And why this raft foundation? Because you're building on ice. So there can be differential settling of individual elements of a building. So this is a must. So 620 square meter of foundation for the raft foundation for the building. And this is around 12th or 13th of January. And here you can see that all the blocks have been put together and people are working. And we had several days of blizzards and everything. And this is an aerial view of our station. Now you must take care of two things, that there are two parts of it, one A and B. They are separated by a very flimsy corridor. Why so? Because fires are very common in Antarctica. Why so? Because one thing, that there is absolutely no moisture, everything is very dry, and a lot of wood is used in these all structures. So that's why, as a precautionary measure, these two blocks were separated by a flimsy corridor. So if in case there's a fire in any one of them, it does not spread to the second one, and people who stay behind can survive in this. Now, this can give you an idea of the stage, of the level of the construction, etc. You are making a place for 12 people to live, laboratories, bathroom, toilets, all kind of things. Around that time, I visited the Russian station, which was about an hour's flight by helicopter, and met the captain of the Russian site, one gentleman who was there for more than 2 years. I said, you don't miss going back to Moscow? He said, enough vodka and no trouble. And you can also note that we put on long johns, then we put on jeans, and then we put on these Antarctic pants and Antarctic shirts. I did not put on these Antarctic pants anytime, just to show that it's not too cold. And at times I used to shiver, and then I'll do only spot running. But it was a way of saying that it's not cold. I have myself carried, we just worked like anyone else. Finally, the fast ice was totally gone, and our ship reached the shelf ice. And as you can see here, that people have gotten down, and this is where we want to make use of our piston bully to carry all the oil barrels, etc. And this again is about 15 meters. So, the thickness of ice where we built a station is estimated to be about 150 meters. So when I had met that Russian friend of ours, colleague of ours, and I had told him that we are going to build such a station, he laughed. And he said, it's good to dream. So on 26 January 1984, we had the flag hosting. And I've been involved in flag hosting a number of times all over country and elsewhere. But I believe this was my proudest moment, where we had people from our ship, and we had got people from Russian camp and from German camp. And this is one of the most proudest flag hosting I've done in my life on 26th of January 1984. So station appears to be in good shape, and our friends, and they said that it's unbelievable what you have been able to do. Another view of our station. So now things are getting ready. And I must tell you that several days were lost as we had expected in whiteouts and blizzards. I'm now showing you inside of the station, which is ready. We are talking around 23rd or 24th of February. This is our medical room, our laboratories, another laboratory, our communication room, all done in 30 days sharp. Our toilets. In between, we also went to Volcat Mountain, which is just about 1 hour's flight. And the wind is so strong there that you can see the flag is just horizontal. And the pilot said, "Sir, I cannot take the risk of switching off the engine of the helicopter, because in case it doesn't start, we'll be all stuck here." So it was a very difficult question on 23rd, 24th of February when the station is complete, whether I can leave those people there or not. And the captain of the ship, Kulu, had told me that we should leave by 1st of March. The fastest ice has started forming, so we must leave by 1st of March. So again, the question was, I asked Dr. Qasim that I'm now talking of 25th of February, and Kulu had said that we must leave definitely by 1st of March. He said again the same thing, "Harsh, you are on the spot. You decide whether you can leave those people, whether they will survive or not." So it was a very difficult question for me. But I think we had been lucky all through. On 25th February, we had a blizzard. At that time, I was in the station, and with me, there were another 30, 40 people. And we somehow, that blizzard lasted for 3 days. And it touched the maximum recorded speed of blizzards in that place. And I was very happy to see that the engineers who were going to stay behind were able to take care of small little troubles that the station had because of that blizzard. So that gave me a lot of confidence. And the blizzard was over on 28th of February. And I thank God that it was 1984. Because in 1984, February had 29 days. So I had 1 day in which we did all the changing of the things, taking things away from the station of the ship, making sure that the station has everything. And then we had slightly must have about 1,000 postcards were sent all over the world. Here is the deputy leader and then leader of the wintering, Colonel S.S. Sharma. And that's all the people who were in the station when that blizzard came. So a very good bye-bye was bid to all the people. And we started off, this is the station, welcoming the people inside. And this is a pistol body. And when we took off, these are the people we just waved. Because once you leave them, for 10 months, no one is going to be with them. Next expedition will reach only end of December of 1984. Now, it is amazing that while this construction work was on, these are all scientific work done by the 16 members of the team. I'm not going to go into details of that. And then we sailed off and reached Mauritius, and we got such a wonderful reception there, because most of the people in Mauritius are of Indian origin, and there was all over in the newspaper. Mr. Prem Singh took me to meet the Governor General of Mauritius, Shiv Bagar Ramgulam. You can see him sitting on the right. He was 82 years of age, a grand young man, very enthusiastic. And the next meeting was with the Prime Minister of Mauritius, Jognath, again very positive. And then India organized an evening welcoming us, and the Prime Minister declared a holiday for the cabinet so that entire cabinet could come to this reception. And this is myself welcoming the persons there. And Dr. Prem Singh said, "Harsh, such a thing would not happen, doesn't happen, that on one side of you is the Prime Minister, on other side the Governor General, and you are in the center." So it was a wonderful reception by us. And then the Prime Minister got interested in visiting the ship, and we brought him to the ship. He was brought in the helicopter by Chandna, and here you can see he's walking. Here is the captain of the ship. It's myself, Prem Singh, and the Prime Minister, and he visited, and everything was shown to him. After this was fabulous, the way he was taken care of, and then I was able to see him off our own helicopter. This is Chandna, one very good officer, naval pilot, who took a lot of part in many things. This is how I looked in my cabin at that time. And this is a route we took from Goa to Antarctica, and a lot of observations on the way and back to India. There was a lot of coverage. Dharmyug was a magazine which was very popular in those days. It has disappeared from the stalls now, but every magazine carried something or other. And then there was a protocol that we will make a brief presentation to the Prime Minister. And 6 June 1984 was decided for that. We all gathered in the Vyakhyaan Bhavan in the morning and we exchanged views because it's the first time we were meeting after returning back. And I made a presentation which was seen by everyone. Dr. Qasim approved it. Madam Prime Minister came at 6 o'clock, the scheduled time, and she spent 10 minutes at looking at the presentation that I made. She kept on asking the questions. She was there. She was supposed to be there for 30 minutes time. Anyway, she kept on talking to all the people and time kept on passing. And then suddenly she says, Harsh, coffee nahi pila rahe? It was not scheduled. So people ran to get a cup of coffee and coffee came, sandwiches came. She said, यहाँ की sandwiches हमेशा सूखी हुई होती हैं. People again ran to get fresh sandwiches. In the process, she spent almost 2 hours with us. We were very happy. We did not know. Next day morning, I came to know that 6 June, that was the time when Operation Blue Star was on. So I believe she wanted to be away from her office, you know, to get diversion from whatever was happening in Golden Temple during Operation Blue Star. And as you know, she was assassinated later in the year. And there were calls asking me to join the procession where they will take her body. And then another call telling that we can't take care of your security because things were not very good. Anyway, finally, the whole year I was on tenterhooks because something or other we keep on going wrong at the station. And they will make a call to Arunachalam, who was a scientific advisor to finance, to the defense minister. Arunachalam I had known from Hyderabad. He will call me, Harsh, what is happening? Why did you leave them? Etc. I said, sir, let's wait. So the whole year was very difficult for me. Finally, end of December 1984, the fourth expedition reached, and the leader of that expedition called me and said that everything is fine. All the 12 brave men are alive and happy and healthy. So that gave me a big relief. It was normal to present the wintering team. This was first wintering team, and that was presented to the new Prime Minister of India, Rajiv Gandhi, on 2nd July 1985. He was very happy. He talked. So when I went to see him off, he put his hand on my shoulder and asked me, why did the helicopter crash? I said it was a pilot's error. He said, yes, I know it. Because, you know, you should have known that you have not gone up high enough. But he himself was a pilot, so he knew. You must know that after that helicopter crash, there was immediately a requirement by the Air Force that I should set up an inquiry to check why this helicopter crashed. So I informed the PMO office that if I get busy with this inquiry, how will I do any work? Within half an hour, that inquiry was lifted. And I was told that once we come back, we'll get into it. So when I look back, to construct a station in Antarctica, which no other country had done before and populate it. So when I analyzed that, why did we succeed? So excellent preparatory interaction that was with both Soviet Union and British, unloading and reloading of whole of the ship. That was very important thing. Plexiglass window in the fuselage of Mi-8 helicopter. If that window was not there, people could not have come out. Allotment of 2 rooms on the ship for medical facilities. If that had not happened, we couldn't have saved the 5 people and the morale have gone. And then finally, helicopter crash and comment, if I do not complete, it became a war crime. The way people worked, after that, there was no more an officer or a man. They were all glued. I must say, can you believe that on my return journey, I found that several of my colleagues had lost their toes. And I was very upset. I said, why didn't you tell me? Sir, if we told you that we are having this cold injury, you will send us back to the ship. And we wanted to work on the station. So that was a kind of commitment. Then lifting of inquiry after the helicopter crash, I told you. Then the strong blizzard in the last week of February. So it looks as if everything was so destined, so planned. Then colleagues having cold injuries not reporting, hard committee work of 81 members, support from Polaris, total government of India support. Very often people say that nothing can happen in government. But luckily, I have been involved with several government operations, whether it was setting up the tsunami warning system, or Antarctica, or whatever. If you work hard and decide to do things, they happen. Then imagine, I'm just repeating it here. Station built 620 square meter raft foundation with living space for 12 generators, laboratories, melt tank, heating, medical room, gymnasium, library, etc. done in 30 working days in 83-84. Can anyone do it today? This is the stamp which was brought out by Postal Department, Department of Post of India. And this is how Dakshin Gangotri looked like in 88. You know, snow, ice kept on coming on it. In 2001, I moved to Delhi as Secretary Department of Ocean Development. And we had spent more than 100 crores on Antarctica program by that time. But there was no cabinet clearance for that. And any program which is going above 100 crores must have a cabinet clearance. So I moved in the month of February, and I put up a note. And the modus operandi was that your note will go to the cabinet and a date will be allotted to you. At that day, you go and present what you have to do, and the cabinet will make a decision. Dr. Murli Manohar Joshi was my minister in charge. And I discussed it with him, and he said yes. So a proposal was sent. And it so happened that it came up for discussion just after 6 or 7 weeks of my joining. So I went there and I waited like other secretaries because there were many proposals and the concerned secretaries wait outside. And when their turn comes, they go in. That day, Dr. Joshi was not keeping well. So he had informed me that, Harsh, I am not keeping well. So you yourself make the presentation, because normally the concerned minister makes the presentation. And since you know everything inside out, and he had also informed Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So when I entered, Atal Bihari Vajpayee himself said that Dr. Murli Manohar Joshi is not keeping very well. So Harsh Gupta ji will make the presentation. I made the presentation. At that time, the finance minister, Sinha sahab, asked me, क्या आपको सेक्रेटरी बने जुम्मे 8 दिन हुए हैं, इसकी क्या जल्दी पड़ गई थी? मैंने कहा सर स्टेशन मेरे को DOD ज्वाइन करे हुए तो 8 दिन हुए हैं, लेकिन मैं अंटार्कटिका से 1983 से जुड़ा हुआ हूँ. कैसे? So then I told the story. They asked me to please sit down, and I narrated what I have told you in 15 to 20 minutes time. And the result was wonderful. They approved that program. They approved the next 3 expeditions, and they charged us with setting up a new station in Antarctica, which gave rise to Bharti. So hats off to Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji and his cabinet for the foresight they had and the understanding of the things they had. This is what Dakshin Gangotri looks like now, because it is totally covered by ice, and we just have a marker there. In 2005, Kapil Sibal became the secretary, became the minister, because there was change in government and BJP lost and Congress was back. And till now, no minister had ever gone to Antarctica. Kapil ji was very keen to have a look at it. So no minister had visited, so we decided to go. And by that time, it was no more necessary to go by ship to Antarctica. There were flights taking place from Cape Town. This Elysian plane takes you there. So me, myself, Kapil ji, and 1 or 2 other people, we went to Cape Town. And these are very interesting planes. These are actually cargo planes. So there are no windows in them. And there are no seat belts. There are seats and some kind of rope you tie up yourself. But it was so refreshing landing in Antarctica after 21 years. I really enjoyed it. And then we went to the station. This is a Maitri station, which we had built on the Shimashar Hills. And all the people there, they were very happy to be there. Kapilji listened to and learned everything what we are doing. And this is my visit to Dakshin Gangotri. And I felt so nostalgic. I just lied down over there. Kapilji lifted me up and then we came back. So it was a wonderful visit to that place. This is Ravi Chandran at that place. And these are the beautiful aurora borealis. I must say, unless until you see them, you can't enjoy the beauty of such beautiful. And total solar eclipse in 2004 in Antarctica. And this is the new station, Bharti, which has been built, which is one of the best stations in Antarctica today. I wrote a book, Building Dakshin Gangotri, A Miracle. It's available on Amazon and elsewhere. And then it was released by Sri N.N. Vora, who was earlier the governor of Jammu and Kashmir in the India International Center on 15th of December. And there was a huge, huge crowd. They all loved it. I got a letter after the book was published by one Jeev, technical officer, Krishna Jeev. He had gone to Antarctica several times, and he told me a story of 1992. In 1992, what happened in the month of September, October, when the new ship comes by end of December. So they had a fire in their kitchen. In the process, they lost all the edible oil, and a generator was also on. So what they did? They walked over to Dakshin Gangotri. They dug open the ice, they entered there, and they took out the edible oil, which was still lying there. Nothing gets destroyed in Antarctica. And they used it. And then he said that much impressed by the teams. I mean, the question of leaving 12 people behind is your total, you are responsible for them. And to take that risk or whatever, but I think it was done and was done very well. Antarctica is becoming very important. I would say the work that we have done in Antarctica has made a lot of changes. It is very disturbing to see that almost 8 inches water level has risen globally in the last 20 years because of melt from Antarctica. And the temperature in Antarctica has gone up by 3 degrees Celsius in the last several years, which is almost 3 times the average change of temperature globally. And there are a lot of big icebergs which are breaking away from Antarctica, and it's really, really very, very gruesome. If we somehow are not able to investigate, we are going to be in a very bad shape. I must thank all the people, all the members of the expedition who made it possible to do it. Finn Polaris, ship people, and Anjali Krishna and Subbarao helped me in writing this book. Stephen Ford from Mauritius, she provided me a lot of photographs, etc., etc. And I'm thankful to Anil Bharadwaj. I spent quite a bit of time with him during the AOGS time. And thanks a lot to Deshpande ji or Nandacha ji and all of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. That was really a thrilling narration. And our virtual tour to Antarctica, we were not fortunate to be there, but you took us to a virtual tour. That was really great. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I'll now request my colleague, Professor Sanjeev Kumar, to please conduct the question and answers. Over to Professor Sanjeev.
Many thanks, sir, for this really interesting story, and thank you for letting us know how it happened. Actually, we always, used to wonder how it was possible during that time. So, thanks for your courage and courage of your team. And I must tell you that because of efforts you put in long back, one of our students right now is in Antarctica, and he's collecting samples for biogeochemical study in the lakes in Sarmata Hill.
How wonderful!
So, thank you very much. So now I'll invite questions from the audience. We have 2 platforms. One is Webex, another one is YouTube. So now I invite questions from audience in Webex, please. Please raise your hand. if you want to have any questions for Professor Gupta.
Yeah, Professor Bhardwaj has raised their hands.
Yeah,
So you have to scroll through.
Yes, Professor Bhardwaj, please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Harsh Gupta, for excellent story you have narrated. We all felt that we are there, witnessing that. And it was so nice to hear the heroic work which you did as a team leader, building the whole station in 30 days. And but before I go to the actual question, I have one very personal question to you. And that is that, the beard which you had in your Antarctica days, was it grown there because to save yourself from the cold weather, or it was a part of your attire that time?
You see, what happens that it does help you if you have got some hair on your chin. The wind does not hit you that strong as it would otherwise. So it was a necessity, and obviously when you are working in the open, it helps you. And I worked a lot. During that time. So it was out of necessity.
Okay, so probably you had it and then you removed it after you came back.
Yeah, I kept my mush for quite some time.
Okay.
After presenting the wintering team in 1985, I thought my job with Antarctica was over, so I shaved off my mustache also.
Okay. My question to you is with respect to the other stations which are built later on, like Maitri and now Bharti.
Yeah.
Can you give us a time scale of how much time they took to complete?
Okay. Now, as far as the Maitri station is concerned, it took about 3 years' time. And the modus operandi is that they brought all the construction material, they dumped it at Dakshin Gangotri station, which was there, and then they will take it because Maitri is on hard rock. So it is a very, very well-built station, and it is much, much larger than Dakshin Gangotri. It can host up to 30 people can live. It has got all the facilities, and it took 3 summers to build it. And the Bharti station is another station which is also prefab, but it is one of the most modern stations that anywhere on Antarctica exists today. And I think it also took about 3 summers.
Good. Great. Thank you for the information. We just wanted to get a feel 3 years to 30 days kind of thing. Great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So next question is from Professor R.D. Deshpande. Please go ahead, Deshpande.
Thank you. So I have 2 questions. The first question is that what kind of scientific investigations are performed before deciding the location where our station will be built?
Okay. You see, there is something known sastrugis. Sastrugis are formation on the ice, which are formed by the wind direction, the prevalence of wind direction. So you study the sastrugis, that gives you the predominant direction of the wind that will flow. And then there should be no cracks. It should not be something that would collapse, etc., etc. So all these things can be visually inspected, and we also had aerial photographs, etc., for several years. And then one major thing was that you should have some view. So fortunately, the place we built, Dakshin Gangotri, in the back was the Walthot Mountain. Although it was almost 100 kilometers away, but you could see it just like it is on the background. So that gave us a very good idea. Also, the location has to be such, suppose we had gone more into interior, then carrying the stuff from the ship to the station would have taken much longer because all the oil barrels, etc., had to be carried by the piston bullies. Piston bullies move with a speed of 15 or 20 kilometers per hour, no faster than that, max. So these were all the things. You see, when you get into a situation, then you have to look logistically and scientifically and otherwise into several aspects to decide on that. And that's where I must say that the help of Russians and Britishers was immense, because I got totally tutored. They sent me so much material, and I like to read and absorb. So that's all led to deciding of the site.
And my another question is that is there some international organization which determines or the allocates the space in which one can build the station?
Okay, the modus operandi is this, that you let it be known that you wish to make a station, and we have to follow the norms very strictly. They are norms of environmental degradation of Antarctica. You cannot throw things away. Every year we bring a lot of garbage back from Antarctica because it's not permitted to dispose it of in Antarctica. So you have to inform the international community, and then you also tell that where you are going to build the station approximately. And you see, for a space almost 2 or 3 times the size of Australia, we have got 40 stations now, 40 or 45 stations on the whole of Antarctica. So most important thing right now is that we should not do any activity in Antarctica which further adds to degradation of Antarctica. And I'll just give you one example. This ozone hole was discovered somewhere in 1990s. And it was also discovered that the chlorofluorocarbons are the culprit. After that, there was a ban on chlorofluorocarbons in USA and many other European countries. And that ozone hole has decreased almost to 10% of its original size. So when you take and you act on a specific issue, results do come.
Thank you so much. Thank you for answering this question.
Thank you, Professor Deshpande. So, sir, the next person who is going to ask a question usually works on Martian atmosphere, but looks like after your talk, he has some questions on Antarctica as well. Professor Varun Sil, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Gupta, for this inspiring overview of Antarctic building the station. My question is, recently there is a news that the Maitri station needs some revamping because certain difficulties are coming there. And they're looking for some alternate site where they can have some other kind of a station. And so once this is done, they're saying that it will be a sort of a green facility. So what is your opinion? Should we go in for another kind of station or maybe revamp Maitri? Or
you see, Maitri is quite a old station. It was built in 1988. So it is almost now 12 plus 20, 34 years. And it needs an upgrading. And our disposal of waste is not up to the required standards of Antarctica. That is a very major issue. So we have to find a solution. And Shimachar Oasis, where Maitri is built, is a very good location. And there is no other station on that as of now. So if they choose another site, you see, there is a Shimachar Lake. And somehow this station got built on the upper side. So everything flows from it into Shimachar Lake. If you build a station on the downside where the slope, etc., is such that your waste will not get into Shimachar Lake. So I think there are many such questions that need to be answered. And for strengthening our presence in Antarctica, for our good and for global good, yes, I think we should have another new version of Maitri.
thank you. One more question, just a brief one, that in terms of outreach, is it possible to take teams to our station and show them what actually kind of measurements we are measuring? For example, to educators, scientists, and teachers, apart from the expedition people who are, really making the measurements.
I think it is possible because now you don't have to do that tedious journey from anywhere in the ship. You can fly from Cape Town. You can fly it from Cape Town, and the strip is just about 1.5 hour drive from Maitri. So if you get in touch with the Ministry of Earth Sciences and tell your suggestion what you want to do, they may like to welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sil. Next question is from Dr. Mudit Srivastava. Please go ahead, Mudit.
Thank you, Sanjeev. And thank you very much, sir, for this explaining this wonderful journey. I'm well aware of that conspiracy theories questions should not be asked in the scientific seminar. So I apologize in advance in asking this thing. You know, there are lots of theories about the first Antarctica expedition, that one of the strategic reason to choose that expedition was the Operation Meghdut, which Indian Army launched to capture Siachen Glacier. And there are lots of articles on the internet and Wikipedia which says that this was the main reason why, you know, the top echelon of our political leadership was keen into that expedition. So could you please clear the air about that?
Well, if you look at the people who went to the first expedition or second expedition, they were all scientists. And I think you can put anything into anywhere, but I've been involved with the Department of Ocean Development as a secretary also. That was never on the radar, this kind of thing. No, not at all.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Now I don't see any hands raised. Okay, we have a question from Dr. Debrata. Please go ahead, Dr. Debrata Banerjee.
Professor Harsh Gupta, thank you for discussing how the Dakshin Gangotri station came about in 1983-84. I just had a science-related question. You know, there were major discoveries which were made from Antarctic ice cores which have been collected by other groups, particularly US or English groups. One can look at oxygen and hydrogen isotopes, and one can also look at the CO2 which is trapped in ice. So would you like to say something on whether any of these measurements have been done in the science experiments which have followed since 1984 on Indian Antarctic expeditions, because we seem to have missed those. You know, you can look at the history of climate basically from these Antarctic, if you have deep cores,
Absolutely.
which are there from Antarctica or from Greenland. Thank you.
Yeah, we can go up to 1 million year in background by looking at the cores going to a depth of a few kilometers. And that work is being done. NCPOR in Goa has got a ice core laboratory and they're doing a lot of measurements. One of the wonderful things that Indian scientists have done in India is the discovery of microbes. There are about 160 or 170 microbes discovered in Antarctica so far. With a group of Indian biologists, they have discovered more than 30% of those. So that's a very big credit. And how these microbes would be used in future for medication, etc., etc. These are still to be found, but I believe that is one thing very credible for the Indian scientists to have discovered so many microbes from Antarctica.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. So there are two questions on YouTube. The first one is from Satyendra Bhandari. The question is, by coincidence, tomorrow is the day in 1959 that Antarctica Treaty was signed. So what is the latest in terms of geopolitics and Antarctic governance?
Well, we had International Polar Year in 2008 or 9, 50 years after the International Geophysical Year. And fortunately, globally, there is an acceptance that we should not disturb Antarctica. That is the only continent where the anthropogenic activities have not destroyed the place like what we have destroyed the rest of the world. So I personally believe that Antarctica has been kept free of any kind of armaments because it is very easy from Antarctica to target anything all around the world. So that has been kept free from that. And people, they are very strict vigilance on what anyone is doing. So to the best of my knowledge, there is no major conflict or difference of opinion on what should be done and how should be done in Antarctica in all the major partners.
Okay, thank you, sir. So the last question is from Hariom Bats. How many persons and teams now go to Antarctica from India now?
Well, I think every year we have expedition to Antarctica, which the number keeps on changing, but 60 to 70 people go. And they now man 2 stations. They man Mathri and Bharti. So the ship goes, and Mathri and Bharti are distant apart. So ship first anchors to load, unload for Mathri, and then goes and loads, unloads for Bharti. So these are the 2 stations, and the strength of a wintering team varies from 25, 30 at both of these stations. And summer component has another 10, 15 people more. That's about the size.
Thank you, sir. So with this, it appears that we have reached to the end of question answer session. And with this, I hand over to Professor Nandita Srivastava for vote of thanks. Professor Srivastava, please.
Thank you, Sanjeev. I am indeed very privileged to present the vote of thanks today. First and foremost, I would like to thank Professor Harsh Gupta for gracing the Platinum Jubilee celebration of PRL and delivering a very exciting and insightful talk today. Thanks, Professor Gupta, for sharing your passion and the excitement of your journey to Dakshin Gangotri, and also discussing about your unparalleled adventures and achievements. I'm sure all will agree that your Vyakhyaan has left us rejuvenated for a long time. We are also grateful to you for taking all the questions and answering them patiently. In the end, I would like to thank Professor Anil Bharadwaj, Director PRL, Pallam Raju, Dean, and also the members of PRL Ka Amrut Vyakhyaan Committee for their support and enthusiasm in organizing the long series of weekly Vyakhyaan that began in August 2021 by eminent personalities. I also want to thank the viewers on the WebEx platform and also on the YouTube channel for taking part in today's Vyakhyaan, and hope to see you again next week, same time, for yet another interesting Vyakhyaan. With this, I would like to propose to close today's session. Thank you very much.
I just want to say that it was Anil who asked me to talk on Antarctica, because I suggested him 4 possible topics, including setting up the tsunami warning system, or studies on triggered earthquakes, or creating a earthquake resilient society. These are the 4 topics, and he said, Harsh, you must talk on Antarctica. So good session. Thanks a lot, Anil.
Thank you. Thank you.